Hello and welcome back to the Modern Work podcast with Microsoft Surface and Qualcomm Technologies. I'm your host, Edd Dale, and today we're talking about how organizations can prepare for and thrive in the unknown. In a world where change can happen overnight, having the right AI technology means you can keep working, innovating, and making decisions no matter what. So today I'm joined by Nick Tate, Partner Development Manager for Microsoft Surface, Mark Bickmore, Microsoft Surface Specialist at XMA, and Ben Green, Partner Business Manager at Qualcomm Technologies. And together we'll explore what makes Surface and Copilot PCs such a powerful tool for today's hybrid workforce and why on-device AI is such a game changer and how to adapt successfully without slowing your teams down. Welcome back to the podcast. You've all been here before, so you know what we're doing. Nick, thanks for joining us, for getting back from lunch so quickly. The film crew really appreciate this. So let's jump into this. And Nick, I guess I know we've spoken about this before in our last episode, but again, just to reiterate, and starting at the beginning, around that the main fundamental difference between with Copilot plus PCs, and I guess really why are they so relevant right now?
So I think there's a vast difference. I think, again, we mentioned this in a previous episode, but if we look back to COVID in 2019, where I think a lot of customers were sort of panic buying devices, making sure that everyone was getting ready for a hybrid work, which no one was used to. Everyone was in the office 5 days a week, and it's been a huge shift. So if you now compare the sort of devices that were being bought then that had maybe 4 gig of RAM, 128 gig of storage, they weren't fit for purpose and they weren't fit for that hybrid work scheme. So if you now look at the devices that we've created, everything that we're moving towards now and we're shifting towards is Copilot plus PC. And with Microsoft Surface, everything we do from this point onwards will be a Copilot plus PC. Now, what that means for customers is there's minimum requirements that a Copilot plus PC has to have to be a Copilot plus PC, and that's a minimum of 40 TOPS. And we've got Ben here today, so Ben will go more into that. But 40 trillion operations per second, which is a vast amount. You've then got 16 gig of RAM and 256 gig of SSD, which is a minimum requirement. And if you would have thought back to 2019, again COVID, that would have been a more top spec device, and there are so many efficiencies that you can do on Copilot. And now we've got the MPU that's local on all of our devices that handles that AI workload. And I think for a lot of customers, if they aren't investing in AI now, they're going to fall behind their competition. So that's where we're
absolutely
currently at.
Like you said, it is the way that it's going. And as we discussed before, with all the ISVs, starting to introduce AI into all of their processes, it is becoming almost impossible to say I don't use AI. And so if everyone is doing this, if you were to invest in a device today that didn't have an NPU, for example, that device could almost be obsolete in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the big statements that I'd love customers to take away from today is devices are no longer a commodity. They should be a strategy, and they should be a strategy within their business because of all the efficiencies that Copilot can deliver. I mean, if we look at some of the efficiencies that we're going to more detail in a bit, what it's doing, it's making you more efficient at your job, more productive at what you're trying to do, and even things like emails, getting it to write an email for you and making it slightly more professional, and little quirks like that you wouldn't expect make a huge difference on how you achieve certain statistics at
absolutely.
work. So,
and increasing productivity, enhancing the user experience. What organization doesn't want that for their workforce, right?
100%.
And Ben, obviously joining us from Qualcomm Technologies. From Qualcomm Technologies' perspective, why is it such an advantage to run AI on device as opposed to cloud-based AI, which a lot of people are familiar with, like ChatGPT, even Copilot, but on device AI? What is the advantage there?
I think there's a number of things, but probably the one thing that resonates with a lot of customers closely and dearly is the security aspect for a start. The ability to protect that data, to ensure that we're not communicating back to the cloud. We don't know where data is going. We don't know what's happening with the prompts that users are putting into a cloud-based platform. But that then coupled up with the ability to access AI tools, that efficiency, that workflow streamlined, wherever you are in whatever environment, whether you're connected or not, to be able to continue to function in in a remote aspect or in the office, it gives users the ability to ensure that they've got that crucial work touch point to do what they need to do.
Absolutely, and I would suppose that also, one of the big advantages that we discussed with Qualcomm technology and the Snapdragon X Elite NPU. I'm so used to saying CPU and GPU. So it's so new to say NPU.
It is.
You've got to really think about it. But obviously, there's huge advantages to battery life as well, isn't there?
There is. There's a lot of advantages that the NPU brings. So the Snapdragon platform utilizes the NPU across the estate, and essentially the NPU is there and designed as a function to take care of the AI element of the workload. But what it actually serves to do is take away a bit of the strain from the CPU and GPU, if it is there, to give that the device more efficiency. It allows the device to run at cooler temperatures. It's taking that strain away from the CPU, helps the longevity of the device as well. So there's a number of associated benefits around that. But the battery life and our ability to give that extended battery life to users is something that I think a lot of customers, on that user experience piece, is really resonating with people.
And I hear that from XMA's customers in particular. Yeah. So we spoke on a previous episode around the hybrid workforce nowadays, and work isn't necessarily based in office nowadays. It is on the road, it is on airplanes and trains, and 5G capabilities enables a secure environment to do that as well. So when we talk about offloading that workload onto dedicated chipsets, that battery performance and the performance when you're not plugged in is so important to get through that workflow and workday. I know from my customers, especially on Snapdragon and the Qualcomm structure, is that they really do benefit from both of those features, like the all-day battery life and also the unplugged performance. Is what they really benefit from.
I'm glad you touched on that, because that's a big one that I didn't drop in. So I owe you a beer, but it's we're complementing the lineup around Copilot Plus, access to Copilot Plus across our estate, and with Surface, all of our devices, have that functionality. But that blended with that performance aspect and that unplugged, plugged in whatever environment that you're in, what we're essentially facilitating to users is that you can use this AI functionality, Copilot Plus, whatever environment, wherever you are in the world. For what we're seeing more and more is continues to be a truly hybrid, remote landscape for business.
Absolutely, and there are some misunderstandings, around Snapdragon processors, especially when it comes to things such as compatibility. Is that something we can? I know we touched on that on another episode, but is that something we can just kind of cover again? Because again, it is something that some people, they might see Snapdragon, and because of misinformation or maybe historical stuff, they might think, well, that's probably not going to work. But that's not the case, is it?
Look, we've been on a journey around the evolution of compatibility. I think I've mentioned it in the other episode, but it resonates so well that if you look at the top 200 applications used by Windows users, 93% of them run natively. And then the other 7% are then in an emulated state, so they give you that functionality. So you're looking at those applications, those softwares that users are working towards. We can be comfortable with the compatibility from that aspect. So it's an evolving thing. We continue to evolve. We continue to work closely with partners, with customers, with Surface. But we're seeing a very different landscape to what we saw even 12 months ago. I think in the last 12 months, by a factor of 3 times, we've seen significant enhancement to the compatibility point with applications.
Yeah, and I mean, with those customers, we've got a plethora of things that we can put in our that we've got in our tool bag that we can help them on that journey with Qualcomm. So, for example, at Surface, we've got a really good loan pool with our full portfolio in that customers can use and test in their environments to make sure how our devices work. And we've also got a really good POC campaign that we can do before that I don't know, Ben, if you wanted to.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do. We work as a strategic partner with XMA to ensure resources and support is there, and with the Surface team as well. Customers can engage and see a real display of effective collaboration between OEM silicon and and partner to ensure that they can have a look, assess, test, get access, take a look at the kit in different gazes and different vises. So there's all sorts of routes to be able to test the devices and see how they fit within an estate.
And that's one thing that XMA are really proud of, our device management as a service. As I said in a previous episode, XMA are the #1 biggest IT solutions partner that's privately owned. And that means we support a lot of customers in all different industries, but one of our more popular services that we offer is our hardware management and device management as a service. And with our close collaboration and partnership with Snapdragon and Qualcomm, we can offer those proof of concept devices to really support how the end users using these devices. But we've got a direct connection into engineers from the Surface side as well as a Snapdragon Qualcomm perspective to really handhold the process to ensure that these devices are absolutely fit for purpose for the particular use case.
Absolutely, and that brings me on to what I was just about to ask you in terms of the processes that XMA has to put this out into the hands of customers. In terms of what does the process look like when it comes to things such as onboarding and deployment roadmaps. How do you make sure that all of this works together in the real world?
Yeah, great question. It all starts with a really good connection with our customers, and our account managers and account directors really get to know our customers on that personal basis. We really understand what journey you need to go on and support and apply our services to your particular needs. So whether it's just helping with hardware hashes to upload onto the autopilot and Intune, we can certainly do that as a service, but also we offer white glove capabilities too. So we can do break fix solutions. We can offer that hardware management as a service to completely offload that workload from your IT solutions provider. But it's also really important to know that we can help customers purchase in a few different ways too. So whether you're working through capital expenditure or operational expenditure, yes, we can offer you that device and quotes up front within 24 hours, but we can also work down the leasing options, which means that one benefit of Microsoft Surface is that residual value that's realized over time. It's an incredible residual value based on Surface devices. And through our operational expenditure and financing options, you can actually realize those savings up front compared to at the end if you're looking to trade in. So there are so many options that we can help, but it really does start with our customer experience and our account managers and account directors really understanding our customers.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I feel like that's been a massive stigma of Surface for a few years, that customers may think that we are more expensive up front, but it's not so much the case anymore, because we've got a really in-depth TCO calculator that not only can give you some really cool emission stats and things like that, but it gives you a really clear breakdown of where the customer will save money over a 3 to 5 year period, depending on how long they want to sweat their assets. And not to big ourselves up too much, but the way that I feel about our devices, they will last for 5 years and more so. So you're not having to refresh your devices every 2-3 years, which was typical for a lot of customers. Also on that TCO calculator, it gives you a clear breakdown of how much uptime our devices have. I think with other devices that are in the industry, there can be quite a lot of downtime and there can be quite a lot of issues. With our devices, they have no bloatware. They have the cleanest image of Windows. We build the software, as you know. So yeah, it will always be the very cleanest image of Windows, and it'll always give users the very best experience of that as well.
Absolutely, and we mentioned before, the Surface, they are premium devices. So obviously when something that's premium, and we're all consumers, all of us here. And we know that if we want nice things, whether it's nice clothes, nice shoes, that does come an additional cost. But we also know that when you spend a bit more money on something, you do get better value. You get more, or it might last longer. I mean, everyone's going to be familiar with the old adage, buy cheap, buy twice, all that sort of stuff. And I don't think technology is immune from that statement. I think that if you are going to be investing, and especially when it comes to AI strategies, things such as M365 Copilot, obviously there is a cost which goes along with a Copilot license on top of your M365 license. And if you're a customer who's going to be investing that much into your AI transformation, your AI strategy, why would you nickel and dime the device? Why not look at the entire solution, buy the company that, also makes Copilot and also sells a premium device which offers a huge amount of value?
Do you know what? I couldn't have said it any better, Ed.
I know it. Do you know what?
You're showing your years at Microsoft here.
It's almost like when I'm not doing this, I'm a Surface trainer. It's funny this.
Through.
Absolutely.
I guess just to go off the back of that point, it is about future-proofing your estate. And I think if your competition are on that AI journey and you're not, again, you're going to be so far behind the curve. But again, just touching on the devices themselves, everything is so ergonomically and aesthetically pleasing. The amount of effort that goes into building these devices is incredible. And there's this hyperbolic chamber. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
It's
is it
anechoic
chamber, where all of our devices are tested, and it'll be tested like with a big hammer, with repetitively millions of times to make sure nothing breaks over that period. But it's that sort of quality that you get within Surface that's unmatched within the industry.
It's obsessive. Detail.
Even the materials, so the alloys that are used on Surface devices, not only are they recycled, but they're incredible to feel. And I think that's one of the big things for customers. Please do contact us to get loan devices out to you, as we'd love you to test them in your estate. And I know this sounds a little bit cringy, but it does make a huge difference. And when you're starting on your very first day at a company, and you open up your box with all the goodies that you get from the company on your first day, and you see a shiny alloy Surface device there, it does make a difference, and you do want to work on the device. It's not one where you have to, even just with one finger, you can open up the lid of the device, and it's little things like that go into the Surface design that people don't think about, and it's why you get better staff retention. So
you mentioned around the cost associated with it, but there's other aspects that we need to consider around the procurement of things. And if we look, what I can say from a Snapdragon perspective around that efficiency piece, that energy piece, that performance, whether the device is plugged in or not, that we can offer, they're considered points that businesses are now starting to look at to help solve challenges. I think that's a meaningful element of how we look at the device these days, and how we can help solve the challenges that businesses faced around sustainability, the efficiency, energy costs, all that sort of stuff that goes into it. That cost to performance ratio, but also efficiently doing that, is so crucial. But with the Snapdragon lineup of silicon facilitates Copilot Plus across the board. So not only do we have the performance, but we have placements in the portfolio at any point accessible for the user to be able to get access to Copilot functionality.
Absolutely. And I've got this one for both Nick and Mark. Obviously we can wax lyrical all day about the fantastic stuff about Surface devices, but what skills do organizations need to actually develop their people to get the most from the devices? I'm thinking, like change management training, that sort of stuff. Is this stuff what would you recommend, and what can XMA offer to support this?
I was going to say, I'll hand this one off to Mark, because XMA have a plethora of different services that they can offer that massively support our customers.
So. From a service perspective, we can create and offer solutions based on your particular needs, whether that's end user training. We can run webinars, for instance, and I think that's going to be quite crucial for the adoption of AI. There is, in general, right, there is all new skills that are potentially needed, and new tools that we may not have used before. So the growing confidence within any organization is going to be key, I think, to a successful AI strategy in general. But we're perfectly placed in that. As I said, not only are we offering many services to the industries such as central government, local government, schools, and even in the corporate spaces too, we are finely tuned and supporting customers in especially the end user support and training from side of things as well.
And it's interesting you say getting staff ready. I mean, they can actually use Copilot. If they have a Copilot license, they can actually get themselves ready and self-teach. I mean, one of the big advantages of Copilot is that you can learn new skills on the device. And one of the big things that I've tried using it for, you can actually get it to teach you a different language, but that's away from work. In work, what you should be using it for is things like formulas on Excel, which for me, haven't always been the easiest thing to create a new formula and build out a waterfall chart and things like that.
Getting your homework done.
Getting my homework done, because I am only 13. But yeah, you can use it for such a magnitude of different things to teach you new skills. So yeah, I'd actually say use Copilot to self-teach you on what things are good for your business.
Absolutely. In particular on the devices too, I do want to touch on how intuitive Surface devices are designed to be. So for instance, I know we were talking about end user training. I don't necessarily think that's necessarily needed for Surface devices for a couple of reasons. The intuitiveness of giving customers the ability to use pen and touch.
The most natural ways of
Yeah,
interacting with anything.
absolutely.
Pen and touch,
You could argue these are some of the most accessible devices on market too. Not only can you use your voice and using generative AI too, but the ability to use touch and pen and keyboard gives end users the ability to work how they feel most comfortable. You can also partner and pair up with lots of accessibility accessories too. So for instance, the adaptive kit that we offer, which is very inexpensive, but it's an incredible way to navigate, if you are hard of sight, for instance, to navigate around a keyboard to find all of the important areas that you're looking to use. So I wouldn't necessarily say end user training is necessary for Surface, but it would really support with the adoption of AI and those particular tools.
I'd absolutely agree. And if I was a business leader and I was looking to invest in some new devices, what's the top checklist, I should be working through? I'm thinking like,
has to have an NPU. That is the big one. I think if we got a report done by Canalys, and effectively they did a big bar graph effectively on where the market's going. And in 2024, I think it was something like when Copilot first launched, it was like 8% of the market had an AI-enabled PC, but that would have been something with very low tops. So it would have been around 8 tops rather than the 40 tops that Ben's creating at the moment. But yeah, by 20, just Ben on his own. But yeah, by 2028, 70 to 80% of the market they believe is going to be AI ready, and I think every device needs to have an NPU. Otherwise, it's not worth investing in. I think you've got to outlay the money now to make sure that you're investing in your future and making sure that your company's ahead of the game.
Yeah, there's some readiness assessments we can really kickstart at XMA too. So our incredible services team, and Terry, you've seen on the next episode coming up, will really support with that from our services perspective. But from an XMA stance, we can really help define an AI strategy within 7 steps, if you like. So first of all, it's really important to assess the capabilities and really determine the goals that you want to create within your organization. So that could be improving operational efficiency or accelerating creativity, for instance. The second part is really define what the success metrics are. So whether it's improving tasks or automation or meeting numbers of communications created and crafted, for instance, it's really important to define that. We could also touch on understanding the AI user personas of your business.
That's a big one, the whole persona-based stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Consider where AI-enabled capabilities are most useful, which is also quite important. And there's a few other steps that we'll be able to go in when you're in touch with XMA.
And also the last big checkpoint is it has to be a Surface device.
Of course. Well, it goes without saying.
What we're seeing is continued acceleration and evolution of applications, ISVs, the enhancements, and how AI is intertwining in every aspect of the user experience of the device. And so ensuring that workforces, users have access to that functionality, not only have that familiarity as well with their own personal devices. We're seeing the acceleration in consumer world, but that's going to transpire, and the demands of the user is going to grow on, and the pressure will grow to businesses to be able to facilitate that. If your devices are not set up ready for that point that's coming in an accelerated fashion, there's a significant cost aspect that needs to be considered in ensuring that we're getting the right devices now, and not incurring additional costs in a shorter time frame than we might be seeing if we don't get the right devices now.
Yeah, and AI PCs will enable end users in a multitude of ways, and I think it's quite important to touch on this. So Windows 11 functionality is becoming AI enabled and only available on Copilot Plus PCs. I know we was talking about training and end user training on how to use it, but again, it's so intuitive to use. We've got a customer at the moment where they are using Copilot Plus Surface devices, Snapdragon devices, and they're receiving feedback from their end users that Click to Do is saving so much time. Nick, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on what Click to Do might be able to offer to customers.
Yeah, so some of the key efficiencies, and I mean, I use myself as a use case for some of these, but for some of our huge financial firms and law firms that use Surface devices, they're currently using it to summarize long PDFs, which is a really simple efficiency. But if you can imagine you've got a 80-page document and you're trying to decipher what really is the key information in there and try and separate out some of the jargon, if you can imagine having to read that full 80-page document where you can just go on Copilot and say, look, can you create me 5 key bullet points to summarize the 80 pages that I've got in front of me, does it within seconds. You've saved all of that time. And yeah, I think it's one of these things that it's only going to get better, right? And it will only come out with better information. The next key efficiency that I absolutely love, because I'm not the most linguistic of chaps in the channel, but I use it to help me draft emails, and it can sometimes help me sound a little bit more professional when I'm signing emails. I was never great at English through school, so it's one of these things where it helps me put the correct grammar in. It's really simple things like that again, it really helps. The next one, that again, these are all really simple efficiencies, but the generation of images. So if you think for a marketing department and they spend hours on Photoshop putting in XMA's logo with a Surface and maybe with a Qualcomm dragon in the background. But if you can just type that in now onto Microsoft Designer and it will create all that for you, again, you're saving hours, and it's all these efficiencies that are making you more productive with what you do. And then the last big efficiency is getting specific answers for specific questions. So some of my partners may reach out to me with something that's well beyond my technical knowledge, and it might be to do with one of the chips inside the device that I'm not 100% sure on. And I can ask Copilot and it will come back with a plethora of information that's all within our SharePoints, or it's all within the web application. It searches obviously all the web. So yeah, it's incredible, and it can really save you time.
No, I agree.
And those efficiencies actually equate to quite a number of hours saved through the course of the month. So the customer that I'm working with at the moment is reporting between 5 and 6 hours saved per user per month with some of these efficiencies.
And that's money, isn't it? That is a
Absolutely.
monetary gain. Again, there's the old time is money, but it's true. It is true. So yeah, it can have a significant impact to businesses. It's not just saving time; it's potentially saving money as well.
Yeah, and giving you the competitive edge.
Right, I think that's probably all we've got time for, gents, because obviously the film crew want to go home because Nick was late back from lunch, so we have to...
Had a lovely BLT.
I'm sure it was. So they're all thanking you. Thank you all very much for watching, and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So a big thanks to Nick, Ben and Mark for joining me today. And if you're wondering how to make AI real in your business, it starts with the right technology and the right support. Follow XMA on LinkedIn for more insights like this. And if you want a partner to guide you through your AI journey, contact XMA today for a free consultation. And don't forget to subscribe and join us next time on the Modern Work Podcast with Microsoft Surface.